So what does come at night? Wait, whoa, who turned off the lights? Oh, I get it. That comes at night. What is up, everybody? Random Random Man here, bringing you my review for It Comes at Night. And yes, haha at the title. I know most people who have seen this movie have already made jokes about it, so I'll just leave it at that. Now, the plot basically follows a family played by Joel Edgerton, Carmen Ejogo, and Calvin Harrison Jr., who live with their dog and are secluded from the rest of the world, as it is implied that a fatal virus has wiped out a good chunk of the globe. Paranoia is already setting in with this family, and more of it comes up when an intruder, played by Christopher Abbott, shows up at the family's house, adding to more questions as to what is really going on in the world. Going into this movie, I did not know what to expect, and I had little motivation to seeing this movie prior to seeing it at first, despite all of the rave reviews that most critics have been labeling towards this film. But horror is my least favorite genre of movies, so I'm usually hesitant to give one a chance. That is until I saw the very divisive reaction that this movie has been getting from audiences, and after a friend recommended me this movie, I got more curiosity to see it. What I can say right off the bat with the performances is that they're exceptional across the board. Joel Edgerton and Carmen Ejogo are compelling in this film as the husband and wife who have every right to be paranoid about what's going on within the universe that this movie sets up early on. We see how frugal they are in giving methods of how they approach keeping themselves safe, but also exploring the surrounding woodland areas that their house is located in. We also get an excellent performance from Calvin Harrison Jr. as this couple's son. I think he is the standout of this movie, especially with some sequences involving him at the center. The other notable players in this movie are Christopher Abbott, who plays the said intruder who tries to break into the main family's house early on. I think he does a stellar job and has some believability in what he is trying to say within this really desolate universe that we are seeing on screen. We find out that he does have a wife and child, the wife being played by Riley Keough and the son being played by Griffin Robert Faulkner. Both of these actors also do superb jobs. The writing in this film is what got me sucked into it from the beginning. This film is written and directed by Trey Edward Schultz. I think what he was able to set up with the background in the first 5 minutes of this movie and us getting to know this family, doing something that is pretty grim, and then the following 20 minutes after, it's a matter of us getting into what world that these characters are living in. And the atmosphere of this film looks and feels isolated, very cut off from the rest of the world. The focal setting of this movie is at the main family's house and the surrounding forest/woodland areas. It really made me feel a sense of scale that is very small, a very focused tale that really got me into its world, despite it looking like it wasn't made for more than several $1 million, which shows that you don't need that big of a budget to make something that is interesting throughout its running time. I got definite vibes of The Last of Us while watching this movie, a masterpiece of a video game, if I so may add. I also even was reminded of The Witch, another recent horror movie which, coincidentally enough, is an A24 release, as It Comes at Night is also an A24 release. Very desolate, very isolated one. Then when we are subsequently introduced to more characters and the ante is increased with this movie, the tension also increases with the film as well. That's what I feel the best kind of horror does. It builds and builds and builds until it reaches a brimming climax that leaves you haunted. And I was feeling spooked throughout this film, but what the climax and the ending did is left me thinking, even though shit does hit the fan eventually. There are a couple jump scares here and there, but I felt that this kind of movie didn't need to rely on that anyway, even though they did get me by my account. It was just a matter of me getting so into this film that it made me feel really bewildered by what does happen with itself, and for both good and bad reasons that I know people have been discussing a lot about. Despite this movie having a tight running time of about an hour and a half, it is a slow burn. We don't get all of the answers that one would expect to get with what is really going on with this film's setting. Now, to me, I like that a movie doesn't have to necessarily give every answer once a movie finishes, because it leaves me thinking, it leaves me pondering what really is going on in these characters' heads, or what have you, what does happen after a climax, stuff like that. It's also a bad thing at times because some things in the film really needed explaining as to whether or not they were just there for the director's vision, or they were just there just to be there and to just conflict audiences. I understood a lot of what writer/director Schultz was going for with creative decisions, but I know some people will notice. Like 4 or 5 times in the movie, Harrison Jr.'s character has dreams or nightmares of sorts, and they involve the aspect ratio of the screen changing. At first it's wide and then it goes smaller to give us an indication that what is happening is not necessarily supposed to really be there or not. It's left to us to decide, and then by the time the climax of the movie happens and the rest of it transpires, the aspect ratio is at its smallest. An editing thing like that was something I noticed and I didn't get at first. Was he really dreaming? Was he not? I only tend to notice that with certain movies. The marketing of this movie is also something to know, as looking into it, this film was heavily mismarketed to general audience members, as some things in the trailer made it look like the film was going to be more fast-paced. Even one shot in the trailer did not make it into the actual movie. But for me, I had limited knowledge of this film going into it. All I really knew before I even saw the film was the 2 posters that were released for it, which one image I previously shown off, and the other one being the main family's dog looking off into the dark woods. I even barely saw footage of this movie before I even watched it, so I think that's a lot of what stemmed my enjoyment of this movie overall, and by the end, I was haunted by how depressing it really got. I felt like I had to do something happy because I was like, oh man, I feel so grimy and dirty after seeing what I saw. From an overall perspective angle, I can understand both the love and hate sides that this movie is getting. Like The Witch last year, critics loved that movie and audiences were more iffy towards it. I personally enjoyed The Witch, and I really enjoyed It Comes at Night as well. I was mainly sucked into this movie from a filmmaking angle and how it was effective to really get me at times for what it was trying to do. Just how well shot the movie was. Well lit. During the darker sequences of the movie, lighting-wise, I was not sure what was going to happen. The editing, even with the aspect ratio changes, the mesmerizing score, the acting, the script, the direction. I was just so appreciative of seeing a movie that was well crafted with itself. I wanted more explanations to what was even going on in the end, but from what limited knowledge I knew going into this movie, I can't say that I expected much more, because this was the kind of movie that left more ambiguous meaning to be interpreted upon from what it does in the end. I think that for horror fans, they should give this movie a watch. I think it is worth watching for them to come up with their own opinion for themselves. For general audience members, I'm not sure how they'll take this film. If they're really open to it like I was, I think they'll get something out of it. But if they're expecting something that they would see from the trailers, I don't think they'll get what they're expecting. From my 2 cents, I definitely recommend this film. My final verdict. for It Comes at Night is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of It Comes at Night, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.